It's the end of week 5 at Stugan. I've got 2 weeks left. I'm in the cabin this time. I could do it outside, but like the last 2 I've done in the same place, in the same weather. It's just really grey. It was sunny today, but then it stopped being sunny. I'll talk about like non-game stuff first. Last night we went up the mountain. I guess like, I don't know if it's a hill or a mountain, but it's a ski slope in the winter, so it's significant. Because there was the Perseids meteor shower, and yesterday and today are its strongest days, and it was cloudy as hell at like 11 o'clock when it was supposed to be the best time to see them. But we went up the hill anyway and brought blankets and beers and cognac, and snacks, and lay out like on the grass on blankets with blankets on top. There was like 15 of us. It would have been a bizarre sight if anyone saw this. And basically just kind of like waited for the clouds to clear, which they eventually did, quite miraculously. And like at first it was just if you could see a star at all through the dense cloud, it was amazing. And then as it started to part, it was like the sky in an area as rural as this is amazing, particularly from like for someone from a city like me. There's almost no part of the sky that is not stars when you can see it clearly. Like there are stars between every star that you think is the faintest star you can see. And then there was meteors, which is fucking amazing. Just like gashes across the sky that like leave a streak there for a few seconds until it fades. And satellites, and there was lightning on the horizon, and it was amazing. That's basically the non-game part of this video. I can't remember what else we've been up to, loads of other stuff, but that kind of like wiped out everything else. Game-wise, I have been, I think last time I spoke I had finished at the very least like teleporters and stuff like that. I can't remember if I'd done sentries. I think I told you about sentries. Sentries are in there and they nicely partition up the space and give you like areas of threat that change. You can hack them, you can turn them off. Yeah, I definitely talk about this. So the thing I've been working on since then is I wanted to focus on new player experience, like getting people into the game more easily. I was going to do a load of playtesting, I didn't do that. Because playtesting seems like just a huge amount of time to not be working, and I know it helps direct your work, but I already know a lot about what I want to make next. So I've been just working on that, and this is a version that I've tested. This is based on a version I've tested many, many times, so a lot of the problems I know are still there. I know that navigation is a problem and things like that, and I haven't changed those things, so I don't need more testing to tell me that needs fixing. I need to fix that, then I want to test it. So I do hope I get to do some testing before all of Stugan ends. But for now, I've just been trying to make that experience smoother. So the main thing I did was a job listings board, which sounds like a simple single feature. But to make a job listings board from scratch, you first have to create the universe. And I have most of a universe, but the things it needs, the reason it's there is to give the player a choice of what kind of missions they want to take on. Like, do you want an easy one? Do you want a hard one? Do you want to be on a big ship? Do you want to have a time limit? That kind of stuff. And so there's making the UI for that, but then there's also like, okay, I can generate a list that says this mission is easy, but then how do I make the mission actually be easy? How do I plug that listing into the ship generation algorithm such that it generates a ship where all of the factors tend towards the easy side of things? It's still going to be random, there's still going to be variation within the easy bracket, but obviously the easy ones have to be significantly easier than the medium ones and the hard ones, because that's the whole point of the system. So it's not like massively tricky or like obtuse problem, but it's a lot of work. You've got to like make that stuff, you've got to hook these things together, make all these things that already exist actually talk to each other, and tweak the ship generator a bit to listen to some parameters and things. So I did that. That works well. Hard ships are big. I don't know why that sounds weird. They're full of enemies that have like shields, they have loads of turrets, they have more enemies per cluster, they have more clusters of enemies. They are much, much harder to get through. Easy ships tend to be small. I think the easiest rating, you won't even find guards most of the time. Like there'll just be no guards roaming around, so you're just free reign to like just get past the security, just get to the objective, just try not to fuck up basic movement. And then medium is like there's some enemies, but they're not going to be aggressively hunting you, and they're not going to have the best equipment. So that's really good. But then the other part is well, there's so many parts to it. On top of that, I also need a system that will tell you specifically what the hazards are on a ship, because that's a big part of like the basis for the white whale system, where you plan ahead for this mission that you're going to take on, I will need a way to generate a ship that I can tell you in advance is going to have turrets, and it's going to have shields, and it's going to have this. And if I'm going to do that anyway, I might as well plug that into the missions listing so that every ship you take on, I can tell you what's going to be aboard it. That I haven't approached yet. The thing I have approached is like, well, also getting to those missions is a pain in the ass. Like, where do those missions spawn? When you accept a mission, it's not going to just spawn a ship right outside the station you're on board, it's going to be out there somewhere in the galaxy. And I'm currently saying that any mission is going to take place somewhat near a station of some kind, because there's either going to be a ship that's leaving that station, there's going to be a ship that's going to that station, maybe it's patrolling around the station. There won't be so many just like out in... If I did pure random locations, it gets a bit weird, like why are all these ships just hanging around in the black? So I did that, and then you've got to fly out to them, and there's loads of things about like the change from small scale to big scale that are not smooth or intuitive for people, and really undersell the cool thing about the game. Like, the coolest thing that we've got working in the game really is the zoom change from like, you're inside a ship and then we zoom all the way out and you can see the whole galaxy, and every stage in between that works, and it's all, doesn't even slow down when you do that, there's no performance cost to that. And that's awesome. So I have made it so that when you go to the mission computer, we pan out from the mission computer until we see the whole galaxy, then you see all the missions dotted around there, then you click on one, and now that you are explicitly accepting a mission, you say, I'm going to do this mission. I, in the role of the game, know where you're going. And that means I can zoom quite intelligently. I can make the game zoom intelligently. I'm going to stop using a first person for the game, this is weird. The game can zoom intelligently because it knows where you're going, so it knows to keep that destination on screen. So you leave the station and then we pull way out until you can see your destination on the map, basically. Kind of like, there's no distinct map mode, but when you pull out far enough, any person would call it a map. So then, as you approach, we can zoom in very, very slowly. Like something I discovered really early on, once we got that smooth zooming working, is one of the smoothest and nicest and most intuitive ways to zoom is to keep two things on screen as they approach each other or as they go away from each other. And if you just say like, the zoom level is whatever it takes to keep those two things on screen, it feels really nice and you get this great sense of scale. Like, as you pull out of the station, we pan out and out and out and out, and then as you approach your objective, we zoom in and in and in. And last playtest I did, it was so painful to watch people like struggle with the manual zoom and zoom in too much and then zoom in too little, and then every time you manual zoom I have to stop interrupting you with auto zoom, so even when the game has a better idea of what zoom level you should be at and it knows like a good one, it can't override you because you said you wanted this zoom level manually, and I don't like to fuck with the players' wishes like that. So it was really awkward, and now it's really smooth, I think. It's going to get more complicated when there are targets of opportunity on the way, if you want to stop at one of those. That's what I did today, was try and figure out, like, if you did want to stop at a ship on the way to your objective and not go straight to your objective, how do we manage the zoom there? And I think it's solvable, but I haven't solved it yet. Right now the system I've got is like, if you slow down near a ship, then we match you to that ship, and we say, okay, this is your new target, and you're going to zoom in on that. But it can be quite sudden and jarring. I think there's going to be some other mode. I think there's going to be some other logic whereby if you're autopiloting, then we assume you're actually going to your destination. If you come out of autopilot and start manual zooming, then we start to try and interpret what you're doing and say, okay, you're probably going for this ship, we'll zoom in on that. You'll always be able to manual zoom, obviously, so you can always override it if it's wrong, but as much as possible I want it to be something you can just forget about and just let the game handle it. I personally let the game handle it almost always. I only manual zoom if it really fucks up, because I don't like using scroll wheels. So that's working quite well. Or like the basis for that is working well, and it's getting way smoother just to kind of take a mission, cross the galaxy, board a ship, do the mission, come back. But there's still loads to do on that. It's the end of the week now, and I still haven't like restored hijack missions, which you used to be able to do, and now you can't, because the mission listings board basically means all mission logic needs to be redone. I know that sounds extreme, but the previous system was opportunities, so you didn't have a mission, you just flew through the galaxy and you spotted ships that had missions aboard them, and that didn't feel good, it wasn't a good structure for the game, so I had to abandon it. But it was very nice from the code side of things, because if the player does not have a mission, a specific mission that they are assigned to do, then you don't need to detect when the mission's failed or when it's uncompletable. It doesn't matter. You never need to tell the player mission failed, because it was just an opportunity, and when the opportunity is lost, it can just be gone. Like, if you've destroyed the ship that the objective was on, all we need to do is destroy the objective. There's no special code to say, oh, detect that the mission is over now. Whereas if you've taken on a mission, we kind of do need to tell you when it's no longer possible to complete that mission, so you know to go back to the missions board and stuff. So all logic for all missions needs to be redone. It's not quite that bad because it needs to be redone to back what it was before I did the opportunity system. This is the infuriating thing about heat signature, is because the design is so fickle and because it has taken so long to like crystallize it into what it needs to be and to get it to be streamlined and focused. There are so many systems that I've like put in and then had to take out again, and one of them was a missions listing board, and now I'm putting that back in. The missions listing board had to be taken out because it clashed with the idea of you intentionally breaking certain trade routes to thin out enemy territory and capture territory, and then later I discovered that capturing territory is really boring and it's not an interesting goal for the game, so now all the advantages of the missions listing board and the reason I did it in the first place are still applicable, and all the disadvantages are gone, so I need a missions listing board. And so I have some of the code in there, but most of it was easier to redo than it was to like port the old code back in. So yeah, I think that I'm going to be working on that next week as well, getting those other mission types back in, probably. Am I? The bigger priority probably is just smoothing out all the kinks, just anything that's kind of tripping players up, and maybe like on Monday I'll just do a playtest with the current build to see what is the highest priority to fix now, because a lot of it is feeling a lot nicer, and so maybe I will learn something new about like, okay, what does the game need now, what is the thing that's tripping players up, and it's only once I've done that that I can improve that new player experience and get new players to become non-new players and understand the game and engage with it in like a meaningful way, at which point I will find out whether I've made the interior game good enough or not, or whether I need to go back and add to that, or whether it just needs like tightening up.